أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Lesson number 137, Surah An-Nahl, ayah number 65 to 79. وَاللَّهُ أَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً. And Allah has sent down water from the sky. How? In the form of rain, in the form of snow, in the form of hail. In various forms, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala causes water to descend from the sky. But in particular, what is meant over here is rain. Why? Because what is mentioned afterwards is that the earth is brought to life as a result of this water descending from the sky. And we know that this only happens when there is rain. فَأَحْيَا, then He gave life. Ahya from the root letters, ha, ya, from the word hayat, life. Ahya yuhyi, ihya, to give life. So فَأَحْيَا bihi, with it, meaning with this water that He sends down from the sky, al-arda, the earth. بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا, after its death. What is the death of the earth? When the earth is dry, when it is barren, when nothing grows on it, when there are no creatures, when there is no food, it's completely dry, there's no water either. So this is dead land. And أحيا به الأرض بعد موتها, how is the earth brought to life after being dead? When there is vegetation on it, when there are plants on it, when there is greenery on it. Because when there are plants on the earth, then what will happen? Automatically, there will be so many insects, there will be so many creatures, there will be so much life. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ, indeed in that, in what? In the coming of the rain, and in the coming to life of the earth as a result of that rain, there is لَآيَةً, surely a sign, for who? لِقَوْمِ يَسْمَعُونَ, for a people who listen. What kind of samar is this? Listening, hearing. Remember, there are different types of listening. One is to just hear the sound, but the other is that a person listens attentively. He listens to the sound, he pays attention to it, he reflects upon it, and samar is also of tadabbur, reflection. And it is also of qubul, of acceptance. That whatever you hear, you accept it as well. So for those people who listen, for them is a huge lesson in the coming down of the rain and in the coming to life of the dead land. What sign is this? What lesson is this? This ayah, this lesson has been understood in various ways. First of all, it has been said that in this is a sign of hayat ba'd al-maut, life after death. Because just as the earth is dead, there is no life in it. Similarly, human beings, when they will all have died, when there is no life in them, in a body, when there is no life in it, there is no blood that is moving inside, that is flowing inside, the person is not breathing. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will resurrect the dead. Just as the earth that is dead, it has no movement, nothing is growing in it. Similarly, when people have died, when Allah can revive the dead land, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can also revive a dead human being. So in this is a lesson of what? Hayat ba'd al-maut, life after death. But everybody cannot understand this from this example. Who can understand? Those people who listen. What do they listen to? They listen to the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they reflect upon them, and they take a lesson. Because many people, they see the rain falling down, they see the earth coming to life again, but they never extract from this the lesson that we too can come back to life. Allah can recreate us as well. They never take that lesson. Why? Because they don't listen to the ayat of Allah. They don't listen to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. If you look at it, if you ponder over the entire water cycle, that the water evaporates, it forms into clouds, and when the clouds are heavy, the water falls down in the form of rain, in due proportion, and as a result, the earth comes to life. This is a huge thing that is happening. But still there are people who look at it, who study it, who measure the rain even, who go into such minute details, but they still don't understand the fact that people can also be recreated. Why? Because they don't reflect on this sign. They don't reflect. They study, they learn, but they don't reflect. It's only those who reflect who can take a lesson from this. Also, if you look at it, لِقَوْمٍ يَسْمَعُونَ, for those people who listen. Who listen to what? Who listen to the sound of rain falling. Who listen to the thunder. Because what does that show? That shows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's greatness, His power. That so much water is constantly falling down from the sky in so much abundance. So much abundance. And the sound of thunder, the sound of the wind, the sound of the rain, what does that show to a person? That makes him realize the power and the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is one sign in the rain falling down and the earth coming to life. There is another sign in this as well. And what is that sign? That just as rain revives the dead land, similarly the rain of knowledge, what does that do? It revives. What does it revive? The dead heart. That just as in order to bring dead earth to life, what do you need to do? You need to pour water over it. Similarly, the hearts of people are also dead. What is it that brings them to life? It's knowledge. But what kind of knowledge? It's the knowledge of the Qur'an. But who will benefit? لِقَوْمٍ يَسْمَعُونَ, for those people who listen. For those people who listen to the Qur'an, who listen to the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, only they can benefit from this knowledge. Because again, the Qur'an, the knowledge is poured over many hearts. But how many absorb? How many retain? Think about it. When you pour water over land, over some soil, or if you pour water over some fabric, what's going to happen? Some things, when you pour water over it, it's going to flow. It's going to flow from top. However, some things, when you pour water on top of it, it's going to absorb. It's going to retain it. So similarly, those people who listen attentively to the Qur'an, who listen to the Qur'an again and again, they will be able to retain the Qur'an. And when they will be able to retain the Qur'an, only then their heart can come to life. Remember, if a person is not able to remember and retain the Qur'an inside himself, then how will he change? Or how will that change be constant? There might be a temporary change, but there won't be a constant change. There won't be a permanent change. So it is very, very important that we must try our best to retain the Qur'an inside our hearts and minds. And how is that possible? When we listen to the Qur'an again and again. Many times I see people are complaining that they're not able to memorize the lesson. They're not able to memorize the words, the root words, the meanings, the singular plurals. They're not able to understand. Why? Because many times our relationship with the Qur'an is just limited to the class. Unfortunately. We only come here, we listen, we go home, we do the lesson, and that's it. It's not beyond that. Yesterday, what did we learn? The importance of entering into Islam wholeheartedly and completely, not compartmentalizing the religion, our lives. Similarly, when it comes to studying the Qur'an, if you really want to retain it, what do you have to do? You have to read it. You have to listen to it again and again. Think about it. The things that you listen to, don't they just get settled in your mind? Like, for example, if there's a particular nasheed that you hear just once, it's coming into your head again and again. Isn't it? You keep singing it in your head. And occasionally it comes on your tongue as well. So similarly, if you want to keep the Qur'an inside your heart, what do you need to do? You need to listen to it again and again. And if you try this, believe me, it will make a huge difference to your memorization. Daily lesson. The daily lesson. When you memorize it, after memorization, make sure you listen. Listen again and again, repeatedly. Listen to the entire surah. Listen to the lesson of the day. And inshallah, it will make a huge difference. So in this is a lesson for who? لِقَوْمٍ يَسْمَعُونَ. Those people who listen to the Qur'an, only they will be able to retain it. When they will be able to retain it, only then there will be some change. Only then their hearts will come to life. Because if you think about it, soil is also of different types. Some soil, you pour water over it, it will absorb it. Other soil, you pour water over it, it will flow. Now the soil that absorbs the water, only that will produce plants. And the soil that does not absorb the water, nothing will grow on it. So in order to bring about the change, what do we have to do? Retain the Quran. How do you do that? By listening to the Quran. لِقَوْمِ يَسْمَعُونَ وَإِنَّ لَكُمْ, and indeed for you, fil an'ami, in the grazing livestock, is what? لَعِبْرَةً, surely a lesson. For you, O people, in the grazing livestock, in these animals, there is an ibrah, there is a lesson. So make sure you reflect upon these animals and you take that lesson. What does the word an'am include? It includes cows, sheep, goats, and camel. The word ibrah is from the root letters ayn, ba, ra. And ibrah is used for a lesson, an example, advice. And basically it is from the word ubur. Ubur. And ubur is to cross over something. Like for example, you're walking, you're driving, and all of a sudden there's a river, there's a stream, or there's a lake. Now what do you need to do in order to get to the other side? You need to cross the river. How will you do that? Through a bridge. Or for example, a boat or a ship or something like that. So ubur is to cross. So ibrah is a lesson. How do we connect this with crossing over something? If you look at it, when you reach the bank, the edge of the water, that's just the front part of it. You need to cross over it in order to get to the other side and see what's out there. If you stop at one side, will you find out what's on the other side? No, you won't. Similarly, ibrah is to not just stop at the appearance of something, but it is to cross the obvious, it is to cross the apparent and look at the hidden message inside. It is to look at the hidden message, that what does this mean? What can I learn from this? Like for example, in the previous ayah, what did we see? The rain is falling down, the earth is coming to life. That is what? Just the obvious. Many people, they just get stuck over here. They don't go beyond that. Ibrah is to cross that surface, to cross that obvious, and see, okay, what can I learn from this? How can I take a lesson from this? And what is that lesson? That just as the earth can come back to life with water, similarly, people who are dead can also be brought back to life. Similarly, hearts that are dead can also be brought to life. So in the animals even, the grazing livestock, there is an ibrah. An ibrah. So don't just look at the cows and goats and sheep and enjoy their meat and say, okay, this piece of meat is very good, or enjoy the milk. No. Go beyond that. See what can you learn from these animals. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about that ibrah. That nusqikum, we give you to drink, from the root letters, sin, qafiyah, we give you to drink, mimma, from what is, fi butunihi, in its stomachs. Butun is the plural of batn, ba, ta, noon, with the sukoon on the ta. With the sukoon on the ta, no haraka on the ta. What's the evidence for that? Tell me a place where the word batn comes in the Quran. The singular form. Surah Ali Imran. The mother of Maryam. What did she say? Ma fi batni. She didn't say batani. What is the word over there? Batni. So, mimma fi butunihi, from what is in its bellies. And the word batn applies to the stomach, the inner part of something. Therefore, it can apply to the womb even, because where is it? In the inner part. It can also apply to the stomach where the food is digested. So, mimma fi butunihi, from its bellies, from its stomachs. What does it refer to? The an'am. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us to drink from what is in the bellies of these animals, min bayni farthin, from between excretion, wadamin, and blood. So between the dung and the blood, while these two things are present in the bellies of these animals, still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us to drink labanan khalisan, pure milk. Despite the fact that the stomachs of these animals are filled with impurity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us to drink labanan khalisan, milk that is khalis. Khalis is what? That which is pure, that which is unmixed. And this laban khalis is sa'igan. It is easy to swallow and drink. For who? لِلشَّارِبِينَ, for those who drink. Sa'igan is from the root letters sin, waw, ghain, from the word saga, yasughu, which is to swallow something. And in particular, it is when something is easy to swallow. When something is easy to drink. When you're drinking it, nothing gets stuck in your throat. When you're drinking, the taste is not nasty, the smell is not that bad, or the temperature is not extremely hot or cold that makes it difficult for you to swallow. It's the perfect temperature, it's the perfect texture, it's the perfect taste, the perfect smell, which makes it very, very easy for you to swallow. Earlier we read the word yusighuhu. وَلَا يَكَادُ يُسِيغُهُ. He will not be able to drink it. Why? Because of the extreme smell and the temperature of that drink in hellfire. So over here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about the lesson that we can learn from these animals. And what is that ibrah? That ibrah is the sign and evidence of the wisdom, the power, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have provided us milk that was not that clean, that had a weird color or a weird taste or a weird texture to it. But look at the kind of milk that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you to drink, and look at where it comes from, where it is produced. What does that show to you? The mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for you. And notice Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says over here, مِمَّا فِي بُطُونِهِ. Yes, butun refers to the stomachs, the bellies of these an'am. But remember that the an'am, they don't have one stomach. Like for example, a cow, it doesn't have one stomach inside itself. It has multiple stomachs. And each stomach, as the food goes through it, different process of digestion is done. And with that, the milk is produced. So all of these animals have multiple stomachs. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that in the stomach, between the excretion and blood, we produce for you laban khalis. How is it khalis? It is pure and clean from the effects and traces of what? Of blood and dung. In taste, you don't taste any blood, you don't taste any dung. Similarly, in color, it's white. It doesn't have a shade of red, it doesn't have a shade of green or brown. No, nothing like that. It's white. And even in its smell, it's khalis, it's pure. In its whiteness, it's pure. In its taste, it's pure. In its sweetness, it is pure. And the amazing thing is, it is produced in the bellies of these animals, which are filled with impurities. Farth is from the root letters farasa. And farth is basically excretion. It is such excretion, which of what the animal has eaten, which is still inside the intestines. So it is such dung which is still inside the intestines. It hasn't yet come out. So just imagine this impurity is inside and there's blood all throughout the body of this animal, but still Allah gives you pure and clean milk to drink. If you look at it, there are many things in an animal. Many things. But two elements in particular are mentioned over here. What are they? Blood and excretion. Whatever an animal eats, after that food has been digested, what happens to it? After the food has been digested, what happens to it? It comes out as excretion. And whatever nutrition the animal gains from that food, where does that go? Into the bloodstream. However, there is also a third thing that is extracted from the food that these animals eat. And what is that? Milk. And that milk is pure, it is khalis. And if you compare this milk to blood, or if you compare this milk to dung, it is very khalis. Blood and dung, both of them, they have smell, they have color. But if you compare milk to it, milk is white, right? It is pure. Similarly, in its taste, in its smell, it is pure. And if you think of it, the purity of the color and the taste and the smell of this milk is not obtained by adding crazy amounts of chlorine or weird things into it, like it is done today. You wonder that how do they manage to get this perfect color of this particular drink every single time? They must add some kind of food preservatives. The juices and drinks that we drink these days, so much preservatives are added to them, or so much food color is added to them, artificial flavorings, artificial colors. Why? To get that right perfect color. But the color of this milk is not brought by adding weird chemicals to them or harmful chemicals. It's a natural process. And it's white. And it's amazing how this milk is produced inside such factories which are surrounded, which are filled with impurities. I mean, many of you, just the thought of going near a cow, I'm sure you can't even imagine. Many people, they see such animals, they're like, I'm staying away from it. I'm not even going near it. Or going close to the animal or touching the udder even is something that people cannot imagine. But the milk that comes out, you drink it, you use it so much. Why? Because it is khalis. It is so khalis, it is so pure. And if you compare this factory that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made to the factories that human beings make, if you think of it, the man-made factories, no matter how sanitary, no matter how quality controlled, no matter how well monitored they are, still there are accidents, isn't it? And foods, they come out contaminated. So many times it may have happened to you, you open up an ice cream box you're eating, and all of a sudden you see a little piece of plastic, or you're drinking something and you find something in it. Right? It happens so many times. No matter how sanitary, no matter how well monitored these factories are, there are always some accidents. But it doesn't happen with the factories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made. These animals, from where our milk comes. Never do you have to say, this milk that has been taken out of this animal, it is contaminated with such and such. It's possible. Why? Because of the harm that we have done to the animal. Not in the natural process that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said. In Surah Yasin, ayah number 73, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَهُمْ فِيهَا مَنَافِعُ وَمَشَارِبُ أَفَلَا يَشْكُرُونَ. And for them therein, meaning in these animals, are benefits and drinks. So will they not be grateful? Will they not be thankful to Allah for this lovely drink that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided people with? Similarly in Surah Al-Mu'minun, ayah number 21, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِنَّ لَكُمْ فِي الْأَنْعَامِ لَعِبْرَةً نُسْقِيكُم مِّمَّا فِي بُطُونِهَا وَلَكُمْ فِيهَا مَنَافِعُ كَثِيرَةٌ وَمِنْهَا تَأْكُلُونَ. And indeed for you in livestock is a lesson. We give you drink from that which is in their bellies. And for you in them are numerous benefits, and from them you also eat. So we see that in these animals there are many, many benefits. But the primary benefit is what? The milk that we drink. And if you look at it, this milk even that we get from these animals, we don't just drink it in its original form. There are so many milk byproducts. Like for example, cheese, yogurt, butter, of course one thing that people love, ice cream, cheesecakes. So many things you make from what? From milk. Ask someone who cannot have milk how many things are missing. Someone who is lactose intolerant or has an allergy to dairy, ask them how many things are missing just because they cannot have milk. So from milk you can get so many things, but we have to see how grateful are we for using this blessing. How grateful are we? And many times we don't feel the importance of a blessing until it is taken away from us. We abuse the blessing so much. We don't use it properly. We don't thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for such blessings. And when they're taken away from us, when we're told we cannot have milk, we cannot have dairy, then we realize what great blessings they were. And we see that the Prophet ﷺ, he showed us the importance of this blessing. How? That whenever he would eat something, after that he would make dua. And what was that dua? Alhamdulillahi alladhi at'amana wa saqana wa ja'alana muslimin. And there are various other du'as as well. Allahumma barik lana fihi wa at'imna khayran minhu. However, when the Prophet ﷺ had milk, he would pray, Allahumma barik lana fihi wa zidna minhu. He made a special dua after drinking milk. That, oh Allah, grant us blessing in this and grant us more of this. وَزِدْنَا مِنْهُ. Increase us for it. And we see that the first substance that many creatures, human beings included, the first substance that they consume is what? Milk. So this shows how important milk is for human beings, how necessary it is. If you think of it, milk can also be extracted from plants. You have rice milk today, you have so many different types of milk today. But the milk that comes from animals, or that a mother feeds her child, is much better. It has much more benefits in it than the other milk that is made by human beings from such plants. And this dua that the Prophet ﷺ taught us, Allahumma barik lana fihi wa zidna minhu, this dua, especially mothers should also read when they are nursing their children. Because many times women complain of not having enough milk for their infants, which is why at a very early stage sometimes they begin supplementing the child. But if you keep making this dua, Allahumma barik lana fihi wa zidna minhu, give barakah in this, that make this milk enough for the child and increase it for the child, then it's so good. So make sure all those mothers, expectant mothers as well as nursing mothers, make sure you make this dua, especially when you are feeding your child. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls this drink labanan khalisan. It is the purest, it is the best food that you can give to your child, that you can feed your infant with. And labanan khalisan, even for elders, milk is something that is extremely beneficial for human beings. If you don't have milk, if you stay away from milk, you're harming your bones, you're harming yourself, you're depriving yourself. And many times people say, I don't like milk. Or people say, I cannot have white milk. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls that labanan khalis. I don't know why we have to add color to it, and add sugar to it, and add weird smells to it, because otherwise we can't have it. We have pink milk or brown milk or yellow milk. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls it labanan khalisan, and believe me, if you start having labanan khalisan, you will really enjoy it. It's just in our mind sometimes, just in our heads, that milk has smell or it has a weird taste. Try having it, and inshallah you'll get used to it. And you see, this is one of the amazing things that in our religion, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned healthy foods. Recently we learned about dates and grapes. Inshallah today we're also going to learn about honey. All of these foods are very beneficial for us. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned them in this way, you want to have it. And if you have it just to please Allah, it's beneficial for you. Another very important lesson that we can learn from these animals is that there is pure milk that is produced from where? From between filth and impurity. Filth and impurity is a part of these animals. It cannot be taken out. But it doesn't mean that if there is filth and impurity, there should be nothing good. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has inspired in every person khair as well as shar. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَهَا. Fujur and taqwa both are inspired in the human being. Now it's up to us. What is it that we produce more? What is it that we focus on more? Because a person can be beneficial, can also be harmful. It's only natural. But we have to see that what are we producing? Similarly, sometimes we blame our environment a lot. We say, I'm saying these words because everybody around me is saying these words. I want to go to such places because everybody is going to such places. I'm not going to pray because nobody is praying. I can't recite the Quran because nobody recites the Quran. I can't wake up for Fajr because nobody wakes up for Fajr. We blame the people around us, we blame the environment all the time. But what do we see? That still there is a possibility of labanan khalisan to come out from between dam and faras. So why can we not do something good despite how the environment is? We cannot blame others but ourselves. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمِن ثَمَرَاتِ النَّخِيلِ, and from the fruits of the date palms. Samarat is a plural of samara. And nakhil, nakhl. وَمِن ثَمَرَاتِ النَّخِيلِ, meaning, and we also give you to drink from the fruits of the date palms, وَالْأَعْنَابِ, and the grapevines. تَتَّخِذُونَ, you all take, you all make, minhu, from it. From what? From the fruits of these plants, from these trees and these vines, which are dates and grapes. You make from it sakaran, a drink. وَرِزْقًا حَسَنًا, and a good provision. From the date palms and the grapevines, you extract two things. What are they? First of all, sakar, And secondly, rizqan hasana. What does sakar mean? Sakar has several meanings. Of them is a sweet drink. Sakar also means a sweet drink. From this same root is the word, what do you call sugar in Arabic? Sukkar. And from that, sugar. Sukkar, sugar. So sakar is a sweet drink. And rizqan hasanan would refer to the solid foods that are extracted from these plants, from the date palm and the grapevine. So sakar would refer to juice, the extract of dates and grapes. And rizqan hasanan would refer to raisins, dry dates. This is one way of understanding sakaran wa rizqan hasanan. Secondly, the word sakar is also used for vinegar. The people of Habasha, they use the word sakar for vinegar. So from the juice of grapes and dates, what do you extract? Vinegar. And also rizqan hasanan. Then what does rizqan hasanan refer to? The solid. Again, raisins, dry dates, or for example, drinks. Thirdly, sakaran also means intoxicant, wine. وَتَرَى النَّاسَ سُكَارَى كُلُّ مُسْكِرٍ حَرَامٌ. Sakran. So sakar also means an intoxicant, a wine. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying over here that from the fruits of these plants of date palms and grapevines, what do? You make wine, and you also take rizqan hasanan. So if sakar applies to wine, then rizqan hasanan would refer to every lawful food or drink that can be extracted from dates and grapes. Whether it is in the form of solids or liquids. Whether it is raisins and dry dates, or it is some juice, or it is vinegar, or it is any kind of extract. So we see that the Arabs, they would not just eat dates and grapes, but rather they would use it for various purposes, and they would also extract various drinks from them. Just like today. People don't just eat grapes, but you have different types of juices. People also make wine from it. Inna fi dhalika, indeed in that, la'ayatan, surely a sign, for who? لِقَوْمِ يَعْقِلُونَ, for people who understand, for people who use their aql. For those people who use their mind, they will take a lesson from this. So we see on the one hand, milk is mentioned. And on the other hand, what is mentioned? Juice. The extract of different fruits. And if you look at it, both of these are lovely drinks. Milk as well as fruit extract. And they can be used as a base for many sauces, for many dishes. You can use them to add flavor. You can use them to add a lot of texture to food. They're very, very beneficial, both of these drinks. And we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created many types of fruits. And from those fruits, juices can be extracted. From those fruits, many benefits can be taken. However, two are mentioned over here specifically. Which ones? Dates and grapes. Because both of them are extremely beneficial for us. Think about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have mentioned apples and bananas. He could have mentioned different fruits over here, which are mentioned elsewhere in the Quran. But in particular, He mentions dates and grapes. What does that show? The health benefits of these fruits. Because previously, milk was mentioned. In the following ayat, honey will be mentioned. Here, dates and grapes are mentioned, which shows that all of these foods are extremely beneficial for human beings. So make sure that you include these things in your regular diet. Whether in its fresh form or in its dry form, some way or the other, make sure you incorporate them. And we see that in this is a very subtle indication that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you the best of fruits, dates and grapes. But how are you using them? What are you making from them? Allah has given you the best provision, but you are using it to make something that is harmful for you. Sakaran. Sakar is what? According to one opinion, it's alcohol, it's wine. intoxicant. So Allah has given you a very good thing, but you are using it incorrectly. And we see the same problem with milk as well today. The kind of food that is given to cows and other animals, the kind of food that is given to them, the milk that is produced today, sometimes it is more harmful than it is beneficial. It's strange how so many people have allergies to dairy. So many people cannot have milk, have developed intolerance to something that is so beneficial. Why? Because of the zulm that people are doing on such animals, on the entire ecosystem, which is affecting their health. It's amazing how sometimes if you go back home and if you mention, my child cannot have milk, people will be like, are you serious? How is it possible your child cannot have milk? They find it extremely strange, because for them, this concept of food allergies is unknown. Unfortunately, in certain areas today, and unfortunately in the most developed areas, it is extremely common. Every other child has allergies today. And why? Because of the incorrect use that we are making of these blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. So in this is an indication that Allah has given you the best things, but it is you. You use them incorrectly and you harm yourself. And if you look at it, previously it was mentioned that in this is a sign for who? For those people who listen. And now what is mentioned? There is a lesson for who? Those people who use their minds. Because when a person has alcohol, when a person has wine, has intoxicants, then what is getting affected? His aql is getting affected. The intellect is one of the greatest blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when a person makes intoxicants out of tayyib food, then he is causing harm to his own intellect. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us His intellect, not that we use it in wrong ways, not that we harm our minds by misusing the blessings, by abusing the blessings. No, He has given us these minds so that we benefit from these blessings properly, and we are grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this teaches us another very important lesson as well. That something can be a source of benefit, and it can also be a source of harm, depending on how people use it. The samarat of nakhil and a'nab, they can be extremely beneficial, rizqan hasanan. But at the same time, they can also be harmful. When people make sakar out of them. So it depends on how we use the blessings, how we use the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided us. Like for example, many times people will say, don't put any computer in your house, don't let your children use the computer. Why? Because they will abuse it. It's true. But at the same time, it can be a source of a lot of benefit as well. Isn't it so? Similarly, sometimes people will say, don't have an email account. They go to extremes. And sometimes people refuse. They will not have an email account. They will use only their parents. Or they will use only their child or something like that. They will not make their own email account, thinking that the email account itself is a source of evil. No. It's about how you use it. It's about how you benefit from it or how you abuse it. It depends on you entirely. The blessing in itself is not harmful. It's the use that makes it harmful. At the beginning of Surah An-Nahl, we learned about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has caused the rain to come down, and there's so much plants and foliage, and who benefits from it? Different animals. And who benefits from those animals? Human beings. So we see that plants have been created for who? For these animals to eat, for these animals to graze on. But if we feed them stuff that is unnatural, stuff that their bodies are not meant to consume, then obviously what they're going to produce is also going to be extremely unnatural, extremely harmful for those animals as well as for the people who eat those animals. If you look at it, the milk that we learned about, it was labanan khalisan, free from any impurities, free from any unnatural stuff. But unfortunately, the kind of food that we give to these animals, the kind of food that we put in our bodies cannot consume it because it is unfamiliar and it is not meant for the human bodies. And when they cannot process it properly, when they cannot break down the food properly, how will they benefit? There is going to be no nourishment in that food. So it's up to us. How do we use the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided? Because many times people go to an extreme and they say, don't even have any milk. Don't have any milk. They will tell you, don't have milk because it's not beneficial, it's not like this. But the fact is that Allah has mentioned milk in the Quran. So, what should you go for? A healthier choice. Alhamdulillah, so many choices today when you go to the grocery store. You can buy one kind of milk, another kind of milk, filtered milk or non-filtered milk. It's up to you, whatever you want to do. So when there's so many choices available, make the most natural choice for yourself. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the honeybee in particular.